Good morning, students. In this recording, I want to show you how to approach paper 2 for business AS. And paper 2 is a paper where you get 2 case studies and then you get answers about the case studies. So during this recording, I will refer back to other case studies and also how they are supposed to mark your stuff. So let's start with study. So I'm going to start by reading and show you how to make notes or stuff that you have to remember while reading, because this is going to give you the bigger picture. Okay, so this case study is about Bilal. He buys homes and then renovates it and then sells it again. So Bilal is a sole trader. Okay, something to remember, he's on his own. Okay, he buys apartments for profit, or buys and sells apartments for profit. He left university 2 years ago and moved back to his parents' home in City W. He lacks social skills. Okay, it means he doesn't talk easy with people, but has always been good at self-management. So he wanted to start his own business. Bill bought his first apartment using money that he borrowed from his parents. He spent some time and money improving and upgrading the apartment and was able to sell it for a profit. Good. He paid his parents back and then he had enough capital to purchase his second apartment. Since then, Bilal has bought 3 more apartments. Table 1.1 shows some of the financial details about the last 3 departments. Right, so let's look at his apartments that he bought and the money that he spent on it. So the first apartment was 58,000 and he spent 8,000 on it. So the total cost of this apartment was 66,000. And he sold it for 80,000, so his profit was 14,000. Apartment B bought for 120, he spent another 10,000, so the cost on this apartment was 130,000. He could sell it for 150, so he made another profit of 20,000. Apartment C, however, he bought for 65, he had to spend another 15,000, so this adds up to 80,000 costs, and he sold this at a loss of 10,000. Right, so remember, they can ask you what was his average profit, so we'll look at this later. Bilal has done some market research and has found out that customer demand for buying apartments in City W is increasing. Maybe there's new businesses, factories. He knows that he needs to purchase as many apartments as he can before the prices increase. However, he's limited by the capital he has in the business. Okay, so you need financing. Bilal has been approached by Sophie, another entrepreneur, who has also buys and sells apartments. Sophie would like to enter into a business partnership with Bilal. She has provided Bilal with some of the details from her last year business, and Bilal can use this data to help him decide if he would like to enter into a partnership with Sophie. Right, so she bought 6 apartments. 4 of them she sold for a profit and 2 for a loss, and her profit margin is 11%, which is actually quite good. And she has capital available. And another thing that Bilal doesn't have is the social skills. So let's calculate Bilal's profit ratio, profit margin. So his sales was 80 plus 150. Let's go to the total sales. 80 plus 150,000 plus 70,000. So his total sales was 300,000. And his profit was 14 plus 24, it's 34, but minus 10. So his profit was only 24,000. Yeah, 24,000. If we calculate this profit margin, it's 24,000 divided by 300,000. So his profit margin is only 8%. So she's actually doing better. Okay. So now let's look at the questions. The first two questions is short questions: define, explain. So define the term market research, explain the term social awareness. Okay, so this is questions that we will go to now. Let's look at them. Okay, and the other questions is where they refer to table 1.1 and they ask you to calculate the profit margin of Bilal and explain one way in which Bilal may add value. You remember that adding value is the most important thing in business. Analyze two factors which could influence the demand for buying apartments in City W. Recommend whether Bilal should enter into the business with Sophie, and then justify your answer. So let's see how we can answer these questions. If you could please take a picture of this case study so we can refer back to the case study. Right, so let's start by defining market research. Market research, remember, is very, very important. We need to do market research. So how could we define market research? Market research is finding information. You need to find information that helps you in your business, that helps you to understand what your consumer wants and needs, and then more important even is what the demand is, what are people willing to pay. So you will get 2 marks if you give a proper definition. And remember, there are definitions in your book. Study your definitions. And again, I will say, if you feel, I'm not so certain if I said everything, then try to give examples. Say something about what would you like to do with your market research. You need to know the cost, you need to know the demand, how much people are willing to pay, what kind of buildings in this case they would like to have, how large, how fancy. So market research, very, very important. Okay, explain the term social awareness. So you remember the social awareness was part of emotional intelligence. And there is a name of the person who started talking about emotional intelligence. I can't remember the name. It is somewhere in your textbook. But social awareness is an understanding of problems of different members of society. So social awareness means you understand other people. You are aware of their problems, the problems of the community, what is going on in an organization. You must understand the issues of a business and the issues of your customers. So social awareness gives you knowledge. If you have social awareness, you will understand and you will have empathy with society, the community, and you will be able to communicate with them on a correct level. Ah, yeah, here's Coleman. Coleman is the guy in your textbook. So remember the name Coleman. It is in your textbook. And you could then name all the 3 elements. That was social awareness, emotional awareness, community awareness. So remember those things. So emotional intelligence is a buzzword that everybody likes to ask questions about. So remember to make sure you understand emotional intelligence. I just want to look at other papers that I've got. Yeah, the first question is always define and explain. define and explain. So definition and explanation. And remember, the explanation can start with a definition as well. Right, question B. Now we're getting a little bit more marks. Refer to table 1, calculate the profit margin Bilal made on his last 3 apartments. So we did that by adding up his total income. His total income was 300,000. You could have added up all of them and then got, that's the one I got, 24,000 divided by total sales, of 300,000. You could have also calculated each one separately and then get the average of it. So his profit margin was 8%. So if you want to get 4 marks, make sure that you explain what you are doing. You will say, you will first give the formula, and then you'll add up, show them you're adding up the income, and add up the profit, and do your calculation. Just show your workings, guys, so that if you make somewhere a little mistake, they can still give you benefit of the doubt. You can get maybe 3 out of 4 marks if you did some small thing incorrect. And then again, explain one way in which Bilal may add value to the apartments he buys. Okay, now use your own creative mind. If you are buying an old apartment, you would like to add value because now you want to make this a property that someone would like to buy. So added value is your sales price minus raw materials. So he is buying a raw material. He's buying a raw building. To add value, you could add anything. You could add carpet. You could just paint all the rooms. You could put in new electricity or switches. You could change the roof. You could modernize the kitchen. There's so many things. So you could just add anything that you can think of that will add value to the building and will make the sales price realistic. So if you want to sell something for a high price, you must make sure that you really added value to this. So again, use your own creativity. You know how an old building looks like and what a new one will look like and what you will be willing to pay for that. Now we get to analyzing. What could influence the demand for buying apartments in City W? So you remember all your factors that influences demand. Demand, and this is no different. So remember, demand is influenced by income, fashion, substitute goods, advertising. Okay, in this case, we are in City W. So what could have increased the demand for buying apartments? Maybe there are more factories, more businesses coming into the city, more people are coming to City W. So the price expectations is that prices will go up. So this will make the demand in the short term, make it higher. So now there's a higher demand because expected prices are increasing. Remember, that's also one of the factors for demand. If you expect prices to increase in the future, you will start buying now. In the case of this building houses, you will probably borrow money. So then the amount of the mortgage rate, so this is interest rate. So interest rate will have an effect on the demand. If interest rate's low, demand for buildings could be high. In South Africa, we have at the moment a very high interest rates, and the housing business is struggling because they can't sell houses at the moment. Taste and preferences, of course. If he can add the correct stuff in his houses, the latest fashions of goods, large windows, or the right colors, the right kind of kitchen, a gas stove, that could also add value. And that could make people demand a house with a gas stove. In South Africa, we will definitely go for a house with a gas stove. So that will definitely increase his demand. And then competition. So as long as Sophie is also in competition, he needs to be careful with his prices because he wants his building to sell, not hers. So competition will also have an influence on your demand. If there's no competition, everybody will go for yours. And then, of course, your income levels in the community. And then fashion. Remember, when you are buying a house, they say the most important thing is address, address, address. So he will also have to make sure that he is buying houses, apartments in good areas. Right, and please remember your application, all reasons that you give must be applied on the housing market. So don't answer generic questions and say, fashion is important. Say something about the fashion in the building business, because the housing business is definitely also part of fashion. At a certain stage, all the house colors were yellow or beige. These days, everything is gray, a darker gray and a lighter gray. And so apply everything to your housing market. Application is free marks. Remember to apply. Application is not something you can study, but application is something you can practice. So please, guys, application is free marks. Free, not 3, but free. You don't have to study for this. So please do your application. Okay, now the recommendation. And now we need to decide whether Bilal should go into business partnership with Sophie. Right, so what does Sophie have that Bilal does not have? So Bilal is struggling a little bit talking to people. He doesn't have a lot of social skills. Sophie has all the social skills. He can talk to everyone and convince people to buy the stuff and ask them what they want. And right, so let's start again with knowledge. Every answer will start with knowledge. So a partnership, try to define partnership. No, not try to, define the partnership. And then remember that there is still unlimited liability. And in a partnership, there could be conflicts. So say anything you know about the partnership. You want to get 2, 3 marks, 4 marks. You can get 4 marks if you probably be very good explain that you know what a partnership is. And especially now with Sophie and Bilal with actually different kinds of personalities. Okay, so the thing is now, application. Now we've done the knowledge. How we're going to apply our knowledge to the partnership, and then analyze and then decide what are we going to recommend. So application is that Bilal will have to share his profit with Sophie. However, remember now, Sophie's profit margin is higher in any way. Sophie has managed to buy and sell more houses than Bilal. This is a good point. Sophie has a lower success rate. She had 4 out of the 6 buildings that she made profit with, but maybe this could change if they come together. Sophie has working capital. Wonderful thing. She has working capital. And do you see we are applying, we are looking at the case study to find reasons. Sophie has social skills that Bilal lacks. She might be able to find buyers, and she could maybe convince them to pay higher prices. Bilal does not like working with other people, so this could be a sort of a problem. But if Sophie has very good social skills, she can maybe accept that. Right. So your arguments and your application, now you're going to argue pros and cons. They have to share profits. There's less control for Bilal. That could be bad for him. He wants to be his own manager. They may disagree on the direction of the business, but, and this is the pros, they can spread risks. Sophie's skills complement Bilal's, and she can contribute capital. And now, your application should be that she will have actually a good way of adding value to his business. So remember, your justification will have to be proven, and you must give real good reasons. Don't simply use the previous sentences that you've used. If you want to advise him to go into business with her, give your reasons. And if you don't want him to go into a partnership with her, then give those reasons. Okay, so to give a summary of what we've done here is every answer should start with knowledge, define, example, make sure the examiner knows that you understand the definition. You understand what they're talking about, the question. So the command words here could be define, explain, identify, describe. So I've seen now that most of the time they ask you to define or they will ask you to explain. Identify sometimes is used, describe sometimes used, but they love using define and explain. So your knowledge would be both knowledge and understanding of the concept. So you should be able to provide definitions of the business concepts, and you must be able to explain them. Right, so let's do knowledge. And again, there we go. It's define product differentiation, briefly explain to marketing benefits. So you can simply, simply remember to keep your explanations as thorough as possible. When you give an explanation, take the stance that the person reading your stuff knows nothing. If you've answered your question, what would you say if I tell you, I don't understand what you're saying? So think of that. You must be able to explain these things to anyone who knows nothing. Right, so product differentiation. Oh, I love this question. I've seen this many times. Product differentiation, remember, is where you differentiate your products from your competitors. They've got similar products, but yours must be different so that people choose yours. And then give an example of that. You can say my conditioner is for maybe colored hair. Other conditioners are for normal hair. But you can say my product is different because we are making sure that when you've colored your hair, it will stay that color for 6 weeks. And then I briefly explain to marketing benefits of product differentiation. So now again, what are the benefits? Remember, product differentiation happens in a competitive market. So you're going to look at why would it be good to differentiate the products? What is it going to help us? Because remember, most of the markets we are in is competitive markets. They are competitive. So you would like to differentiate your product. It must stand out. And the marketing benefits is you have something more to say about your product. And you can even make it more recognizable. So that's this is the differentiation. And then distinguish between random and quota sampling, guys. This is a question that comes up really often. Briefly explain the limitations of market research sampling. So you're going to talk about random sampling, where any person has got the chance of being chosen for this research, and quota sampling is where we are looking at certain amounts. If we say 65 people, 65 male, the percentage of males wearing jeans is 65%, females 35%. Then you are going to use this quota in your sampling. And then explain only 2 limitations of market research sampling. It could always be biased, it could be too small. There's a lot of stuff that you can explain, but they only ask you to. And please explain those 2 thoroughly so you can get your 3 marks. Again, define the term market segmentation for 2 marks. Again, remember your definition, but if you are uncertain about that your definition is not good enough, add an example. You want to convince the examiner that you know what it means. Briefly explain 2 reasons why a business might segment the market for its product. Then again, only 2 reasons, but then explain them properly. Your segmentation allows a precise targeting of your market. So are they old people, young people, females, males? That will help you when you start marketing your products. Allow a business to design and produce goods specifically aimed at this group. So a segment does really give you certain features that you would like to add to your product. If it's for young people, maybe more colors. Maybe it's for older people, softer colors. It helps to identify gaps in the market. So maybe you see there's a gap between the school kids and people starting to work. They are looking for a certain kind of clothes they want to wear to university or wherever. That's a gap. A different marketing strategy can be adopted. So it's important to have different market segments because you know what they want. You can focus on what their features are, what they want and need. And then you can also decide, it could help you to market, to focus on how to market to the segment. So whatever reasons you give, just explain why you are saying this. It's so important. You must convince the examiner. Again, define the term market research and then briefly distinguish between secondary methods and primary methods. Okay, so define market research, blah, blah, blah. You're going to tell why it's important. It's market research is collecting and analyzing data and why it's necessary. Distinguishing between secondary and primary research. You could start with a definition of both and then explain the difference. Secondary methods is sitting behind your desk, looking at various previous researches and data, and the primary research is when you are focusing on your own product and now you are going to focus on asking questions about your product. Right, now we get to application. Application The command words they will give you is to apply or calculate. Calculate is definitely an application because you're going to use the numbers in the case study, and then explain according to the case study. Okay, so application of knowledge. This is something that I got from the Cambridge syllabus. The most important point about explanations given above is that A's and A-level examinations are not simply testing your subject knowledge. They want you to be able to apply your knowledge to any kind of business. So you'll have to apply the knowledge, especially to data response. So if we have case studies, this is easy application. An application is 3 marks because you must simply link your answer to the case study. You will be expected to use theories and techniques of the subject. So you are always, remember guys, that theorists are actually difficult to study. I will add a few videos on the theorists, and I'll try to also make a PowerPoint on the different theorists. Because if you can add theorists to your answers, that really impresses the examiners. Right, so then they ask, how important is your revision for subject knowledge? Of course, your revision of subject knowledge is very, very important. You must know your definitions. You must know the bullet points underneath. What is the role of the manager? What is the role of the leader? What is the Mintzberg's 10 leader roles, manager roles? So unfortunately, you have to study your theory. If you know your theory, the rest is easy. Your theory will give you only 40%, but then you must use the application, analysis, and evaluation. And this is, when you're doing more and more papers, this becomes easier. So application, don't forget this, please, guys, because this could give you another 20% on your paper. So let's look at examples of application. Now, this is a question without a case study. So they ask you to explain the benefits to a railway company of using price discrimination for ticket sales. 8 marks. Knowledge first. So what is price discrimination? I hope you remember what price discrimination is. Price discrimination is where you charge different prices for different people. Now, when we're looking at train services, during peak time, prices are expensive. During off time, prices are lower so that they can get more people on the trains at that stage, because the trains are going, they need customers. Same with flight planes. If you book in time, your price could be very low. If you book at the last moment, your prices are going to be high. Okay, so the benefits to a railway company of using price discrimination for tickets. So first, explain price discrimination, then explain railway. So in the mornings, most of the people will get on the train. You could use Groottrain as an example. If you have examples of other trains, you've been in other countries, you can use other countries. So in peak time is about from 6 o'clock to 9 o'clock. Then prices are normally higher. Groottrain, the prices from, I think, 10 to 3 are quite low because they want the train to ride every 30 minutes. So, but they need more passengers to really make it worthwhile. The same with overseas. If you're riding the train in peak time, it's expensive. But if you are on holiday and you would like to go from London to Leeds or something, it's a good idea to start looking at different prices, because different times will give you different prices. So if you travel in the middle of the day, it's cheaper. Right, so remember, they're actually charging different prices for identical goods. You're sitting in the same train, So why would they use price discrimination? To make sure that their trains are also full in off-peak times. And that's how they keep the companies afloat. They want to make a profit, so if they can get more customers on the train, then the better. So the benefit is that during peak times they get a lot of money and the people don't have a choice. They need to be at work at 9. And then in off-peak times, there are always people who want to travel. Your holiday, your visitors, your people visiting family, your pensioners. So give them a chance to go by train, fill up your train, and you will still get your money. And remember, in the trains in England, you can buy coffee and tea and food stuff. So that's adding to the income of the company. Right, so remember they only asked you to explain the benefits. They did not ask disadvantages. So please remember to then only explain the benefits. And be sure to explain it properly, that the examiner knows that you understand price discrimination. Again, all the other pricing methods are also important. Penetrating pricing, I think there is a question that we did on that. Competitive pricing. So remember to understand all those different ways of pricing. Right. Analyze the benefits to a new business of using break-even. Now we're going to analyze, right? So analyze is now looking at pros and cons. The third part of this recordings will be about how to analyze, how to evaluate. So I'll give you certain words and phrases to use. So let's start analyzing. Okay, analyze the benefits to new business of using a break-even analysis. Okay, first you're going to explain, because there's 8 marks, so you don't have to evaluate, but you have to give your knowledge, you have to apply, and you have to analyze. So your knowledge will give you 2 marks, application 2 marks, and analysis 4 marks. Right, so let's start. Definition of break-even analysis. This is what you do when you look at costs and selling prices and how many units you need to produce to break even. All right, so break-even analysis, explain it, give your definition, and if you get stuck a little bit, give an example. So you are looking at how many units you have to produce to stop making a loss and to start making a profit. Application. Application is now to a new business. So now you're going to apply your answers to a new business. So this business is brand new. They don't know exactly how much everything is going to cost them and where will they break even. So they need to get all the costs. I have to start getting costs because they're a new business. What is the fixed cost? What will be the variable cost? At what price could they sell? Because there's a new business. They have to find out. They have to do research. So they need to get the cost prices, fixed cost prices, variable cost prices, and what could the selling price be. And now you analyze. Now you say, okay, maybe this business wants to start with 3 different products. Then they can calculate the break-even point for the first product, then for the second product, and then for the third product. And this could help them make decisions. Which product will be worthwhile, which is going to be the easiest one to make profit on. And then also they are looking at the total capacity. So if you have one factory and you are able to produce all 3 products, good. But make sure that the amount of units that you have to produce to break even, that you will actually be able to produce more. So you are going to use this analysis to look at different products. For this new business, they need to research a few products to decide which one they are going to start using. So this is the benefits. So keep going with your benefits and remember to apply it all the time to a new business. They don't know anything yet. They don't have past figures to look at and help them make decisions. So analyzing, look at the pros and the cons, look at the different products they could make, and finish your answer. I'm going to stop with this recording and I will start with analysis in the next recording. So this is part B and I will put this on the classroom.